The escape pod drifted silently through the void, spinning gently as its emergency thrusters attempted to stabilize its trajectory. Inside, Captain Tarek of the Volari Defense Fleet pressed a trembling hand against the wound in his side. Crimson fluid seeped between his fingers, the distinctive blue-tinged blood of his species pooling beneath him on the metallic floor. "Status report," he commanded weakly, his voice barely audible, even in the confined space of the survival pod. The pod's artificial intelligence responded with a mechanical tone that betrayed no emotion. "Life support at 10% capacity. Oxygen reserves depleting. Estimated survival time, 6 hours, 23 minutes. Tarek grimaced, both from the pain and the grim news. The Atlan ambush had been perfectly executed. His ship, the Solace Sentinel, had been torn apart within minutes. As far as he knew, he was the only survivor, jettisoned in this escape pod as the vessel disintegrated around him. "Distress signal status?" he asked, already suspecting the answer. "Transmitting on all emergency frequencies. No response detected." Of course, the Atlans would have jammed the regular channels, and they were in a remote sector of space. The nearest Volari outpost was at least 3 days away at maximum warp. No one would reach him in time. Tarek closed his eyes, contemplating his fate. 6 hours to live. 6 hours to reflect on a life spent in service to the Volari fleet. 6 hours to prepare for the void. There were worse ways to die, he supposed. At least he wouldn't be taken prisoner by the Atlans. Their reputation for treating captives was infamous throughout the galaxy. With a grunt of pain, he reached for the console, pressing the recording button. If, by some miracle, the pod was ever recovered, at least his final report would be intact. "This is Captain Tarek of the Volari Defense Fleet, commanding officer of the Solace Sentinel. The date is the 7th cycle of the luminous moon, year 4589 by Volari reckoning. My vessel was ambushed by Atlan forces in the Scylla Nebula. I believe I am the sole survivor." He paused, fighting a wave of dizziness. "The attack was unprovoked and occurred in neutral territory. This constitutes a clear violation of the Galactic Accord. I recommend immediate diplomatic." A sudden beeping interrupted his recording. Tarek's eyes darted to the console, where a light was blinking. The motion sensor had detected something outside the pod. "Proximity alert," the AI announced. "Unknown vessel approaching." Tarek's heart raced. Had the Atlans returned to finish the job? Or was it possible, against all odds, that help had arrived? "Visual identification," he ordered, wincing as he pulled himself upright. The small view screen flickered to life, showing a sleek vessel approaching. It wasn't Volari design, nor was it Atlan. In fact, it wasn't like any ship Tarek had ever seen before. Its hull was dark, with subtle blue lighting along its contours. It moved with precision, adjusting its course to match the pod's drift. Species identification inconclusive," the AI reported. "Hull configuration and energy signature do not match any known vessels in database." Tarek stared at the screen, a mixture of hope and trepidation filling him. "Broadcast identification request on all frequencies." For several tense moments, there was nothing. Then, to Tarek's surprise, the console lit up with an incoming transmission. "This is Captain Rhea Lockhart of the Earth vessel, Aegis Dawn. We've detected your distress signal. Do you require assistance?" Humans. Tarek had heard of them, a relatively new species to interstellar travel, with only a small presence in the galaxy. They were not aligned with either the Volari or the Atlans in the ongoing conflict. They were neutral. Before Tarek could respond, the pain in his side intensified, and he slumped forward, his vision blurring. With the last of his strength, he pressed the communication button. "Injured. Atlan ambush. Life support failing." Then darkness claimed him. Aboard the Aegis Dawn, Captain Rhea Lockhart turned to her crew on the bridge, her expression grave. The transmission from the alien pod had been brief, But the distress in the voice had been unmistakable. "Life signs?" she asked her science officer. Lieutenant Maya Reeves consulted her scanner. "One life form. Biosignature doesn't match any in our database, but it's definitely weakening. My guess is they're severely injured." Rhea nodded, her mind racing through the implications. They were on a scientific mission, not a rescue operation. Getting involved in whatever conflict had resulted in this alien's predicament could be dangerous. Moreover, they knew next to nothing about the physiology of the being in the pod. Could they even help if they wanted to? "Captain." Her first officer, Commander Davis, spoke up from his station. "I must remind you that our mission parameters don't include intervening in alien conflicts. We should report this to Earth Command and proceed with our scheduled survey of the Scylla Nebula." Rhea drummed her fingers on the armrest of her chair. "Noted, Commander. But there's a being dying out there, and we might be their only hope. With all due respect, we don't know anything about this situation." Davis pressed. "This could be a trap, or we could be inserting ourselves into a conflict we don't understand." Rhea stood, her decision made. "I understand your concerns, Commander, but I won't leave someone to die when we have the means to help. Lieutenant Reeves, scan the surrounding space for any other vessels. Lieutenant Kim, prepare the rescue shuttle. Dr. Mara, report to the shuttle bay with medical supplies. Engineer Lin, I want you to assess that pod's compatibility with our airlock systems." The bridge crew sprang into action, though Rhea didn't miss the concerned look that Davis exchanged with the tactical officer. She understood their hesitation. Humanity had only been a presence in interstellar affairs for a few decades, and they were still learning the complex politics of the galaxy. Getting involved in conflicts between more established species could be risky. But some principles transcended political considerations, and not leaving people to die alone in space was one of them. The preparation for the rescue operation proceeded with military precision. Engineer Lin, a compact woman with quick hands and quicker thinking, studied the schematics of the alien pod projected on the screen in the shuttle bay. "The airlock systems aren't compatible with ours," she reported to Captain Rhea as she tightened her spacesuit. "But we can use the rescue drone to stabilize the pod, then cut through the emergency hatch here." She pointed to a section of the diagram. Dr. Mara, a tall woman with close-cropped silver hair and dark skin, was packing a comprehensive medical kit. "I've loaded every diagnostic tool and broad-spectrum treatment we have," she said. "But, without knowing the species, I'll be working blind." Rhea nodded. "Do what you can, Doctor. Our priority is to get them stable enough to transport back to the Aegis Dawn." The rescue shuttle launched smoothly from the bay, with Lin piloting, Dr. Mara preparing her equipment, and two security officers, Sergeant Torres and Corporal Jansen, standing ready. Rhea had decided to lead the rescue mission herself, despite Davis's objections. As they approached the pod, Rhea got her first close look at the injured alien's vessel. It was clearly military in design, sleek, with what appeared to be weapons mounts, now damaged and inactive. The hull was scored with energy weapon impacts, and a large section had been completely sheared away, the edges melted and twisted. "Whatever hit them hard," Lin observed as she maneuvered the shuttle alongside the pod. The rescue drone detached from their shuttle, a small robotic unit that moved with precision to attach itself to the pod's hull. Once secured, it extended stabilizing arms that brought the pod's rotation to a halt. "Pod stabilized," Lin confirmed, proceeding with emergency access. The drone's cutting laser activated, carefully slicing around the emergency hatch. Within minutes, the hatch was free, and the drone gently pulled it away. "I'm reading atmosphere venting," Sergeant Torres reported. "The pod's internal environment is different from ours. Higher oxygen content. Traces of gases not in our atmosphere." "Suits sealed and checked," Rhea ordered. "Dr. Mara, you're with me. Torres, Jansen, Secure the entrance. Lynn, keep the shuttle ready for immediate departure. With practiced movements, Rhea, Dr. Mara, and the security team entered the pod through the opening. The interior was dimly lit by emergency lighting, casting an eerie blue glow over everything. And there, slumped over a control console, was the pod's occupant. Rhea's first impression was of size. The alien was tall, at least 7 feet, with a slender, almost elegant build. Its skin was a pale silver blue, and instead of hair, a crest of what looked like fine, iridescent filaments swept back from its head. It wore what appeared to be a uniform of some kind, dark and fitted, now torn and stained with blue-tinged blood. Dr. Mara moved forward immediately, medical scanner in hand. Severe laceration to the right torso, she reported clinically. Internal bleeding, multiple fractures, and... She frowned at her scanner. Dual cardiovascular systems, both compromised. Respiratory system failing. We need to move quickly. Rhea approached the alien, taking in the details of its face. Despite the obvious differences from human physiology, there was something recognizably sentient in its features. A certain symmetry. Eyes closed now, but clearly forward-facing. A mouth that suggested speech capability. "Prep the stasis stretcher," she ordered. "Let's get them back to the ship." As they carefully transferred the unconscious alien onto the stretcher, Rhea noticed a small insignia on its uniform collar, a symbol she didn't recognize, but clearly denoting rank or affiliation. "Captain," Torres called from the pod's entrance. "You should see this." Rhea joined him at the hatch, looking out at what had caught his attention. In the distance, barely visible against the backdrop of stars, debris floated in a dispersed pattern, twisted metal, shattered components, and occasionally, what looked disturbingly like bodies. "That must be their ship," Torres said quietly. Rhea nodded grimly. "Let's move. We don't know if whatever did this is still in the area." They returned to the shuttle with their unconscious passenger, sealing the hatch behind them. As Lynn piloted them back to the Aegis Dawn, Rhea couldn't help but wonder what kind of conflict they had just inserted themselves into, and whether they would come to regret their act of mercy. Back aboard the Aegis Dawn, the medical bay had been hurriedly prepared for their unusual patient. Dr. Mara worked feverishly, assisted by her medical staff, to stabilize the alien's condition. "Dual hearts," she reported to Rhea, who stood at the observation window. "Both damaged, but the secondary one seems to be taking over the critical functions. Respiratory system is compatible with our oxygen, thankfully, but the balance needs to be adjusted. I've administered what I hope is a compatible blood substitute and sealed the worst of the wounds." "Will they survive?" Rhea asked directly. Dr. Mara's expression was cautious. "If they were human, I'd say no. But their physiology has remarkable regenerative capabilities. The tissues are already responding to treatment. I think... yes. I think they have a chance." Rhea nodded, relieved. "Keep me informed of any change. I want to know the moment they regain consciousness." As she turned to leave, Commander Davis approached, his expression serious. "Captain, a word?" They stepped into the corridor outside the medical bay, and Davis lowered his voice. "Long-range sensors have detected ships entering the system. Configuration matches the debris we found. They could be looking for survivors." Rhea's pulse quickened. "Or they could be whoever attacked the pod. How many?" "3 vessels, moving in a search pattern. They haven't detected us yet, but they will if we stay here." Rhea considered their options. "Prepare for emergency departure. Plot a course that will take us through the asteroid field at the edge of the system. It should mask our signature long enough to give us a head start." "And our guest?" Davis asked, glancing toward the medical bay. "Comes with us," Rhea said firmly. "I won't hand over an injured being to whoever tried to kill them in the first place." Davis looked like he wanted to argue but merely nodded. "Aye, Captain. I'll have the ship ready in 10 minutes." As Davis departed, Rhea returned to the observation window, watching as Dr. Mara continued working on their mysterious passenger. Whoever they were, they had just complicated Rhea's mission considerably. But as she watched the steady rise and fall of the alien's chest, she knew she couldn't have made any other choice. The Aegis Dawn slipped away from the rescue site, its engines running as quietly as possible to avoid detection. Engineer Lin had reconfigured the power distribution to minimize their energy signature, a trick she had developed during her time in the Earth Fleet's Special Operations Division. "We're approaching the asteroid field," Lieutenant Kim reported from the helm. "Entering in 30 seconds. Rhea sat tensely in the captain's chair, watching the tactical display where 3 unknown vessels were visible, still searching the area where they had found the escape pod. "Status of our guest? Stable, but still unconscious," Davis reported. "Dr. Mara says the sedation is necessary while the most critical repairs to their vascular system take place." The ship shuddered slightly as they entered the asteroid field, a diffuse collection of rocky bodies ranging from the size of a fist to small moons. Kim navigated with precision, threading the Aegis Dawn through the drifting obstacles. "Captain," the communications officer called suddenly. "We're picking up transmissions between the unknown vessels. The universal translator is having difficulty, but it appears they've discovered the empty escape pod." Rhea's grip tightened on her armrest. "Time to clear the asteroid field?" "At current speed, approximately 17 minutes, Kim answered. "They've altered course," the tactical officer announced. "They're heading toward the field. I think they've detected our engine signature." Rhea stood, her mind racing through options. "Kim, take us deeper into the field. Find the densest concentration of asteroids large enough for us to maneuver through." "That will slow our exit significantly," Kim warned. "Better slow than caught," Rhea replied. "Lieutenant Reeves, what can you tell me about those ships?" The science officer studied her readings. "Highly advanced propulsion systems. Energy signatures suggest powerful weapons arrays. Their hulls appear to be reinforced with some kind of alloy our sensors can't fully analyze." "Superior technology. Then," Rhea murmured, "we won't win in a direct confrontation." The ship banked sharply as Kim navigated around a particularly large asteroid, causing everyone to brace themselves. "They're entering the field," Tactical reported. 3 vessels, spreading out to search." Rhea made a quick decision. "All stop. Power down all non-essential systems. Lin, can you mask our energy signature completely?" The engineer's voice came over the comm. "Not completely, but I can reduce it to the point where we might be mistaken for a small asteroid if they're not looking too carefully. The hull materials should help scatter their scanning beams." "Do it," Rhea ordered. "Everyone, minimal movement, minimal systems. Let's become a rock." The lights dimmed as power was diverted, leaving only the emergency lighting casting a soft glow over the bridge. The usual hum of the ship's systems faded to near silence. Rhea watched the tactical display, where the 3 enemy vessels were now visible within the asteroid field, their search pattern methodical and thorough. One of them was coming uncomfortably close to their position. "Hold position," she whispered, though there was no need for quiet in space. The tension on the bridge was palpable as the hostile ship drew nearer. Suddenly, an alarm sounded from the medical bay. Davis rushed to the internal communications panel. "Dr. Mara reports our guest is regaining consciousness," he said urgently. "They're becoming agitated." Rhea's decision was immediate. "I'm going down there. Davis, you have the bridge. If those ships detect us, get the Aegis Dawn out of here. That's an order." Without waiting for a response, she hurried to the turbolift. As the doors closed behind her, she heard the tactical officer's tense report. "Hostile vessel changing course. They're heading directly toward us." In the medical bay, Dr. Mara was struggling with their alien patient, who had regained consciousness and was thrashing against the restraints that had been placed on the biobed for their own safety. "Try to calm down," Dr. Mara was saying, her voice steady despite the chaos. "You're safe. We're trying to help you." The alien, Captain Tarek, Rhea reminded herself, was clearly disoriented and in pain. His silver-blue skin had taken on a paler hue, and his eyes, now open, were a striking violet with vertical pupils that had dilated in panic. He was speaking rapidly in a language the universal translator couldn't process. Rhea approached the biobed slowly, hands raised in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "Captain Tarek," she said clearly, "you're aboard the Earth vessel, Aegis Dawn. We rescued you from your escape pod. You're injured but safe." Tarek's gaze fixed on her, his struggles subsiding slightly. He spoke again, this time more deliberately, as if testing whether she could understand. The translator beeped, then produced a halting translation. "Where? Vessel? Who? You?" "I'm Captain Rhea Lockhart," she responded, keeping her voice calm. "We found your escape pod and brought you aboard for medical treatment. Your vessel was destroyed." Understanding seemed to dawn in those alien eyes, followed by a fresh wave of agitation. "Atlans," he managed, the word coming through clearly. "Atlans. Follow?" Rhea exchanged a glance with Dr. Mara. "There are vessels searching the area," she confirmed. "We're hiding in an asteroid field, but they're getting close." This information seemed to focus Tarek. With visible effort, he calmed himself, though Rhea could see the pain in his expression. He spoke again, more clearly this time. "Atlan hunters," the translator rendered. "3 ships. Standard search pattern. We'll find you." "We've powered down our systems to mask our signature," Rhea explained. Tarek shook his head slightly. "Not enough. Atlan sensors. Detect life signs. Heat signatures." A chill ran down Rhea's spine. If these Atlans could detect their presence regardless of their technological precautions, they were in serious trouble. "Can we outrun them?" she asked. Tarek's expression was grim. "No. Atlan vessels. Faster. Better armed." "Then what do you suggest?" Rhea asked directly. The alien captain seemed to consider, wincing as he shifted position. "One option. Dual beacon." The translator hesitated over the term, and Rhea frowned. "I don't understand." With obvious effort, Tarek raised a hand, gesturing for something to write with. Dr. Mara quickly provided a data pad. The alien's long fingers moved across it with surprising dexterity, despite his weakened state, drawing what appeared to be a technical diagram. "Atlan honor code," he explained as he worked. "Challenge to single combat. 1 ship against 1. Others must withdraw." Rhea studied the diagram. It appeared to be some kind of signaling device. "And they'll honor this challenge?" Tarek's expression was hard to read, but his voice, even through the translator, conveyed certainty. "Yes. Atlans. Warriors. Live by code. Honor above all." "Even when they ambushed your ship?" Rhea couldn't help asking. A flash of what might have been anger crossed Tarek's features. "Different situation? Military target? This personal challenge?" The ship suddenly lurched, and the lights flickered. Rhea's communicator activated. "Captain," Davis's voice was tense. "They've spotted us. 1 vessel is closing in. The others are moving to flank us." Rhea looked at Tarek, a decision crystallizing. "How do we issue this challenge?" Tarek pointed to his diagram. "Need to build beacon. Specific frequency. I can help." Rhea nodded, her mind made up. "Dr. Mara, is he stable enough to be moved to engineering?" Dr. Mara frowned. "Technically, yes, but I strongly advise against it. He needs rest to recover." "No time," Tarek interjected, already attempting to sit up. "Help me!" Rhea moved to support him, and Dr. Mara reluctantly assisted on his other side. "If your wounds reopen, I'm bringing you straight back here," the doctor warned. "Understood," Tarek managed. His breathing labored as they helped him to his feet. The journey to engineering was slow and precarious, with the ship occasionally shuddering as it was struck by weapons fire or maneuvered sharply to avoid it. By the time they arrived, Tarek was leaning heavily on Rhea, his skin noticeably paler. Engineer Lin looked up in surprise as they entered, her hands busy at a control panel where she was rerouting power to the shields. "Captain, what's going on?" "Our guest has a plan," Rhea explained quickly. "We need to build something called a dual beacon. It might be our only chance." Lin's eyes widened as she took in Tarek's weakened state, but she quickly adapted to the situation. "What are the specifications?" Tarek was eased into a chair, where he immediately began working with the datapad, his fingers flying across the surface as he expanded his diagram and added technical details. Lin leaned over his shoulder, her expression shifting from confusion to understanding. "This is based on quantum entanglement principles," she said with surprise. "Similar to some experimental communication systems we've been developing, but more advanced." "Can you build it?" Rhea asked directly. Lin studied the diagram for another moment, then nodded. "Yes, with some modifications to our existing communication array, but it will require taking our communication systems offline temporarily." "Do it," Rhea ordered, as Lin set to work, assembling components and making rapid calculations. Rhea's communicator activated again. "Captain," Davis's voice was urgent. "Shields at 62% and falling. We can't maintain this evasion pattern much longer." "Understood, Commander. We're implementing an alternative strategy. Hold them off for 5 more minutes." Lin worked with remarkable speed, her hands a blur as she reconfigured equipment and assembled the beacon according to Tarek's specifications. Tarek himself remained conscious through sheer determination, directing Lin when necessary and checking her work. "Almost there," Lin reported after several tense minutes. "The frequency modulator is the last component." A particularly violent impact rocked the ship, sending tools scattering across the engineering bay. Lin barely maintained her balance, clutching the partially assembled beacon. "Shields at 40%, Davis reported. "Captain, we need to take evasive action now." Rhea looked to Lin, who was making the final adjustments to the beacon. "Ready?" "Just one more," Lin muttered, connecting a final circuit. "There, it's ready." Tarek gestured weakly for the device. When Lin handed it to him, he inputted a series of commands, his fingers trembling slightly. The beacon hummed to life, a small light on its surface glowing with an intense blue radiance. "Connect to main transmitter," he instructed. Lin quickly interfaced the beacon with the ship's communication system. "Ready for transmission." Tarek looked to Rhea. "Your ship. Your challenge." Understanding the significance of the moment, Rhea took the beacon. "What do I say?" State name. Ship. Challenge single combat. By rights of the Galactic Accord." Rhea took a deep breath, then pressed the transmission button. "This is Captain Rhea Lockhart of the Earth vessel, Aegis Dawn. By rights of the Galactic Accord, I challenge the commander of the Atlan forces to single combat. 1 ship against 1. Honor demands your acceptance." She released the button, and the beacon emitted a distinctive pulse of energy. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, abruptly, the weapons fire ceased. "Captain," Davis's voice came through, confusion evident. "They've stopped firing. The 2 flanking vessels are pulling back." A new transmission came through the ship's communication system, a harsh, guttural voice, speaking through the universal translator. "Challenge accepted, Earth vessel. Prepare for combat. May your defeat bring honor to your people." Rhea exchanged a glance with Tarek, who had slumped back in his chair, exhaustion evident, but a glimmer of satisfaction in his eyes. "What happens now?" she asked him. 1 ship. One battle, he replied weakly. Others must withdraw to observing distance. No interference. And if we win? A faint smile touched Tarek's lips. They must let us go. Honor satisfied. Rhea nodded, a plan already forming in her mind. Lynn, can we use the beacon to affect their sensors in any way? The engineer considered the device thoughtfully. Possibly. It's generating a very specific quantum field. If we could amplify it and modulate the frequency, could we create a temporary blind spot in their sensor coverage? Lynn's eyes lit up with understanding. Yes, I think so. It would be brief, but potentially effective. Do it, Rhea ordered, then activated her communicator. Davis, I'm returning to the bridge. Prepare for a single-ship engagement. I want our electromagnetic pulse system charged and ready. As she helped Tarek back to his feet, he regarded her with newfound respect. You have plan? I'm not much for honor duels, Rhea admitted. But I'm very good at finding advantages. Let's get you back to the medical bay. Then I'll deal with our Atlan friends. By the time Rhea returned to the bridge, the tactical situation had clarified. A single Atlan vessel was positioned directly ahead of them, its weapon systems clearly ready, but currently inactive. The other two ships had retreated to a safe distance, as Tarek had predicted. Status? Rhea asked, taking her seat. The Atlan vessel is twice our size, heavily armed, Davis reported. Sensors indicate multiple weapon systems that outclass our own. Their shields appear significantly more advanced than ours. In other words, a fair fight isn't going to end well for us, Rhea summarized. Precisely, Davis confirmed grimly. Rhea studied the tactical display, noting the position of the Atlan ship relative to the asteroid field. Kim, can you maneuver us deeper into the field, toward that larger cluster of asteroids? The helm officer nodded. Yes, Captain, but it will limit our maneuverability significantly. That's what I'm counting on. Take us in. 1/4 impulse. Make it look like we're seeking an advantage in the terrain. As the Aegis Dawn moved slowly into the denser part of the asteroid field, the Atlan vessel followed cautiously, keeping its distance but maintaining weapons lock. They're being careful, Davis observed. Smart. Lynn, Rhea called over the comm. Status of the beacon modifications? Ready, Captain. The engineer's voice came back. I've reconfigured it to generate a cascading quantum disruption field. It should create temporary sensor interference in a 10-kilometer radius. And our EMP weapon? Charged and ready. But Captain, at this range, it will affect our systems as well. Rhea nodded, having anticipated this. Understood. All stations, prepare for temporary systems failure. Kim, plot a course through the asteroid cluster that can be executed on minimal power. Davis, as soon as our systems reset, I want all available power to the engines. She turned to the tactical officer. Wait for my signal. Then fire the EMP simultaneously with Lynn's quantum disruption. Target the Atlan vessel directly. The bridge crew worked quickly to prepare, the tension palpable as the Atlan ship continued to shadow them, occasionally firing warning shots that exploded against nearby asteroids. They're getting impatient, Davis noted. Good, Rhea replied. An impatient opponent makes mistakes. Position. Approaching the densest part of the cluster now, Kim reported. Optimal position in 30 seconds. Rhea watched the tactical display intently, waiting for precisely the right moment. The Atlan vessel was now partially obscured by a large asteroid, its sensors likely compensating for the interference. Now, she ordered. The tactical officer activated the electromagnetic pulse weapon, while simultaneously, Lynn triggered the modified beacon. A wave of energy erupted from the Aegis Dawn, expanding outward in all directions. The bridge lights flickered and died, plunging them into darkness before the emergency systems activated, casting a dim red glow over everything. On the tactical display, now functioning at minimal capacity, the Atlan vessel appeared to drift, its systems similarly affected by the pulse. "Status of the Atlan ship?" Rhea demanded. "Sensors indicate their primary systems are offline," Tactical reported. "Shields down. Weapons inactive." "Execute evasive course, maximum available speed," Rhea ordered. The Aegis Dawn surged forward on reserve power, threading its way through the asteroid cluster with precision born of careful planning. Behind them, the Atlan vessel remained temporarily immobilized, unable to pursue. "They're recovering faster than expected," Davis warned, watching the tactical display. "Sensors show their systems are already beginning to reboot. Time to clear the asteroid field?" 3 minutes at current speed, Kim answered tensely. Rhea calculated quickly. "Not fast enough. Lynn, how soon can we have main power restored?" "Working on it, Captain," the engineer responded, her voice strained. "The EMP affected our systems more than anticipated. 2 minutes to partial restoration, maybe 3 for full power." The tactical display showed the Atlan vessel now moving again, though sluggishly, as it reoriented itself to pursue them. "They're charging weapons," Tactical reported. "Evasive maneuvers, pattern delta," Rhea ordered. "Use the asteroids for cover as much as possible." The Aegis Dawn weaved through the floating rocks. Kim's piloting skills pushed to their limits as she navigated on minimal power, with reduced sensor capability. A blast from the pursuing Atlan ship struck a nearby asteroid, shattering it and sending fragments spinning toward them. "Brace for impact," Davis called. The ship shuddered as several smaller fragments struck the hull, but the damage appeared minimal. "Hull integrity holding," Tactical reported. "But we can't take a direct hit in our current state." Rhea's mind raced through options, none of them promising. They needed more time for their systems to recover, but the Atlan ship was closing the gap rapidly. Suddenly, the door to the bridge slid open, and to everyone's surprise, Tarek entered, supported by Dr. Mara, who looked deeply unhappy about her patient's insistence on leaving the medical bay. "Captain," Tarek addressed Rhea, his voice stronger than before, though still strained. "The Atlan vessel, using standard recovery protocols, predictable sequence." Rhea immediately grasped the significance. "You know their systems." Tarek nodded. "Volari intelligence. Studied Atlan technology for decades. Their targeting systems, last to recover, still recalibrating. So they can't get an accurate weapons lock yet," Rhea deduced. "Correct, but defensive systems, already online." Rhea turned to Tactical. "What's our weapon status?" "Minimal functionality. Phasers at 30% capacity. Targeting systems unreliable." "We don't need to destroy them," Rhea said, a plan forming. "Just delay them. Target their propulsion systems. Even a glancing hit might slow them down enough for us to escape." The tactical officer adjusted the weapons targeting. "Ready, Captain, but accuracy cannot be guaranteed." "Fire when ready," Rhea ordered. The Aegis Dawn's phasers lanced out, most of the beams missing their target or being absorbed by the Atlan vessel's partially restored shields. But one shot found its mark, striking the larger ship's starboard propulsion array. "Direct hit," Tactical reported with surprise. "Their starboard engines are showing reduced output." "Push our engines to maximum," Rhea commanded. "Get us out of this asteroid field." The ship surged forward, systems gradually coming back online as Lynn and her engineering team worked feverishly to restore power. Behind them, the Atlan vessel continued pursuit, but its damaged propulsion system had created an asymmetrical thrust, forcing it to constantly correct its course. "We're clearing the asteroid field," Kim announced. 30 seconds to open space." "The other Atlan vessels?" Rhea asked urgently. "Maintaining their position," Davis reported, checking the long-range sensors. "They appear to be honoring the dual protocol." Tarek nodded weakly, from where he had been seated at an auxiliary console. "Honor. Demands they observe without interference." "Engineering reports full power restored to engines," Davis announced. "Warp capability in 45 seconds." "The pursuing vessel is falling behind," Tactical added. Their engine damage appears more significant than initially assessed. Relief washed over Rhea as the Aegis Dawn finally cleared the asteroid field, entering open space where they could maneuver more freely. "Set course for the Taurus Reach," she ordered. "Maximum warp as soon as available." As the engineering team completed the power restoration, the warp engines hummed to life. With a flash of light, the Aegis Dawn leapt to faster-than-light speed, leaving the damaged Atlan vessel and the asteroid field far behind. The tension on the bridge gradually dissipated as it became clear they had escaped pursuit. Rhea turned to Tarek, who was being examined by an increasingly frustrated Dr. Mara. "Thank you," she said simply. "Your knowledge made the difference." Tarek inclined his head slightly, a gesture Rhea interpreted as respectful acknowledgement. "You saved my life. Debt of honor." "There's no debt," Rhea replied. "We did what any decent being would do." Tarek's expression was difficult to read, but his voice now translated more smoothly as the universal translator adapted to his language, carried a note of wonder. "No, many would not. Atlans would not. Even many Valari would hesitate to risk themselves for an unknown species." "Then, perhaps it's time for new alliances in this part of space," Rhea suggested. "One based on something other than military advantage." Tarek studied her for a long moment, then spoke with evident difficulty. "I must return to my people. Report Atlan violation of neutral territory. We'll get you to a Valari outpost as soon as you're recovered," Rhea promised. "In the meantime, please allow Dr. Mara to return you to the medical bay. You've already exceeded her recommendations for activity." Dr. Mara's expression confirmed this assessment, and Tarek acquiesced, allowing himself to be helped back to the turbolift. As they left, Rhea turned to Davis. "Set a course for the nearest neutral starbase. We'll need to resupply and assess any damage before proceeding further." "Aye, Captain," Davis acknowledged. "And our mission parameters?" Rhea understood the unspoken question. They had deviated significantly from their original scientific expedition, involving themselves in what appeared to be an ongoing conflict between advanced alien civilizations. "Our mission is to explore and establish peaceful contact with new civilizations," she said firmly. "I'd say rescuing Captain Tarek falls well within those parameters. Earth Command may not have anticipated this specific situation, but the principles remain the same." Davis nodded, seemingly satisfied with her reasoning. "The crew performed admirably under pressure," he noted, "especially Engineer Lin." "Make a note in the log," Rhea agreed. "Commendations for all involved in the rescue and escape." As the Aegis Dawn cruised at warp speed toward the relative safety of neutral space, Rhea found herself reflecting on the implications of their encounter. They had taken a risk in rescuing Tarek, potentially involving Earth in a conflict they barely understood. Yet, she couldn't bring herself to regret the decision. Some principles transcended political considerations or mission parameters. And the look in Tarek's eyes, that mixture of surprise and gratitude when he realized they had risked themselves for him, a complete stranger, confirmed that she had made the right choice. In the following days, as the Aegis Dawn continued its journey to the neutral starbase, Captain Tarek's condition improved rapidly. Dr. Mara was astonished by his species' regenerative capabilities, noting that injuries that would have taken weeks for a human to recover from were healing in days. "His physiology is remarkable," she reported to Rhea during their daily briefing. "The dual cardiovascular system provides redundancy that helped him survive the initial trauma, and his cellular regeneration rate is approximately 3 times that of humans." Rhea had visited Tarek daily, initially to check on his recovery, but increasingly to learn more about the complex political situation they had stumbled into. The universal translator had fully adapted to his language now, allowing for much more nuanced communication. "The conflict between the Valari and the Atlans has persisted for generations," Tarek explained during one such visit. He was sitting up in the biobed, his color much improved, and his movements more fluid. It began as a territorial dispute over a resource-rich system, but has evolved into a fundamental ideological conflict. Ideological in what way? Rhea asked, genuinely curious. Tarek's expression grew contemplative. The Atlans believe in what you might call might makes right, that the strong should naturally dominate the weak, and that this is the proper order of the universe. They see expansion and conquest as virtues. And the Valari? Tarek hesitated, as if reassessing his own beliefs. We have traditionally valued order, structure, and the rule of law. We fight not to conquer, but to maintain what we see as a just equilibrium. Rhea nodded, noting the complexity in Tarek's tone. But you have doubts? The alien captain was silent for a moment. Recent years have seen changes in Valari policy, more aggressive posturing, less willingness to negotiate. Some of our leaders argue that we must adopt Atlan methods to defeat them. Becoming what you fight against, Rhea observed. Precisely. Tarek's violet eyes met hers directly. It is a path I have questioned, though quietly. Military discipline does not encourage dissent. These conversations continued over several days, with Tarek sharing insights into Valari culture, history, and technology. In return, Rhea told him about Earth and humanity's relatively recent emergence onto the galactic stage. We're newcomers, she explained. We've been traveling among the stars for less than a century. Many of the older species view us as primitive. Yet your ship saved me when Valari cruisers with far superior technology could not reach me in time. Tarek pointed out. Technology is not wisdom. It was during one of these discussions that the Aegis Dawn finally arrived at the neutral starbase, a massive structure in orbit around a barren moon. Its design reflecting its multi-species administration. Ships of various configurations were docked at its numerous ports, representing a dozen different civilizations. We've been cleared for docking, Davis reported. Station administration requests information about our passenger. Rhea glanced at Tarek, who had been permitted to visit the bridge, now that his condition had stabilized. I should contact the Valari embassy, he said. My government will want to know what happened to the Solace Sentinel. Rhea nodded. Of course. We'll provide any assistance you need. As preparations for docking proceeded, Tarek seemed to come to a decision. Captain Rhea, he said formally, using her title and name together in what she had learned was a sign of respect in Valari culture. Before we arrive, I wish to express my gratitude not only for my rescue, but for what you have taught me. Rhea raised an eyebrow, surprised. What I've taught you? Your actions, risking your ship and crew for a stranger, of a species unknown to you. They represent a principle that has been losing ground in my culture. The inherent value of life, regardless of affiliation. The willingness to extend compassion beyond strategic advantage. He straightened, wincing slightly, as his still healing wounds protested the movement. I have made a decision. When I report to my superiors, I will recommend a formal alliance between the Valari and Earth. We have much to learn from each other. The bridge crew exchanged surprised glances. Earth had been seeking to establish diplomatic relations with the more advanced species in the sector. But progress had been slow, with many viewing humans as too untested for meaningful alliance. We would welcome such an alliance, Rhea said carefully. But will your government be receptive? You mentioned shifts toward a more hardline stance. Tarek's expression was resolute. There are still many in positions of influence who share the traditional Valari values. And my family has connections at the highest levels of government. My voice will be heard. The implications of this unexpected development were still sinking in when the communications officer interrupted. Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from the starbase. It's addressed specifically to Captain Tarek. Tarek looked surprised, but nodded his assent. Put it through. The main view screen activated, revealing another Valari, older than Tarek, with a crest that had faded to a pale silver and facial features marked by what Rhea assumed were the signs of age in their species. He wore an elaborate uniform, adorned with symbols of rank. Tarek straightened immediately, offering a formal salute. "Hi, Commander Sorrel. This is unexpected." The older Valari's expression was grave. "Captain Tarek, when the Solace Sentinel failed to report, we feared the worst. Your survival is fortunate." There was something in the High Commander's tone that put Rhea on alert, a certain tension that suggested more than simple relief at finding Tarek alive. "I was rescued by this Earth vessel," Tarek explained, gesturing to Rhea. "Captain Rhea Lockhart and her crew extracted me from my escape pod and evaded Atlan pursuers at significant risk to themselves." The High Commander's gaze shifted to Rhea, studying her with an intensity that was almost palpable, even through the view screen. "Indeed. Most commendable. Captain Lockhart, the Valari Defense Fleet extends its gratitude for your assistance to one of our officers." "It was the right thing to do," Rhea replied simply. "Yes, of course." The High Commander's attention returned to Tarek. "Captain, upon docking, you will report immediately to the Valari Embassy. Your debriefing is of the highest priority." Tarek inclined his head. "Understood, High Commander. However, I wish to formally register my recommendation for an alliance between—" "Such matters can be discussed during your debriefing," the High Commander interrupted, his tone brooking no argument. "Sorrel out." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving an uncomfortable silence on the bridge. "He seemed less than enthusiastic about your rescue," Davis observed quietly. Tarek's expression had grown thoughtful. "High Commander Sorrel represents the more traditional faction of our military leadership. He views interactions with less technologically advanced species as potential security risks." "And your recommendation for an alliance?" Rhea asked. "Will meet resistance," Tarek admitted. "But I am committed to it nonetheless. What I experienced aboard the Aegis Dawn, the compassion, the willingness to help regardless of difference, is too valuable to ignore. My people need such allies, especially now." As the Aegis Dawn completed its docking procedures, Rhea accompanied Tarek to the airlock, where they would part ways. He had changed from the medical garments into a fresh Valari uniform, provided from the starbase at his request. "This isn't goodbye," Tarek said as they reached the airlock. "Rather, it is the beginning of a new chapter in relations between our peoples." Rhea smiled. "I hope so. The galaxy could use more cooperation and less conflict." Tarek reached into his uniform and removed a small device, offering it to Rhea. "A Valari communication beacon, attuned to my personal frequency. Should you ever require assistance, or simply wish to speak, I will answer." Rhea accepted the device, recognizing the significance of the gesture. "Thank you, Captain Tarek. I hope our paths cross again under less dramatic circumstances." "As do I, Captain Rhea." Tarek offered the formal Valari salute. Then, to Rhea's surprise, extended his hand in the human gesture of a handshake that he must have observed during his time aboard. Rhea took his hand, noting the unusual texture of his skin, smoother than human skin, with a subtle iridescence visible up close. "Safe journey, Captain." As Tarek departed through the airlock, Rhea couldn't help but feel that something significant had transpired, something beyond a simple rescue mission. In the vastness of space, where different species often viewed each other with suspicion or outright hostility, they had forged a connection based on the simple principle that life, regardless of its origin, was worth preserving. She turned back toward the ship, the Valari communication beacon a reassuring weight in her hand. Whatever political complications might arise from their encounter with Tarek, she knew she would make the same choice again. Some principles transcended the boundaries of species or politics. And in a galaxy, often torn by conflict, perhaps such principles were what they needed most. 3 months later, the Aegis Dawn was completing a survey mission in a previously unexplored system when the communication officer called Ria's attention. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission on an unusual frequency. It appears to be the Valari beacon." Ria, who had kept the device with her since parting with Tarek, felt a surge of curiosity. "Put it through to my ready room." Once there, she activated the beacon, and Tarek's image appeared in a holographic projection. He looked well, his posture straight and proud, though she noted subtle changes in his uniform insignia. "Captain Ria," he greeted her, his expression warm. "I hope this message finds you well." "Captain Tarek," she replied with genuine pleasure. "It's good to see you fully recovered." "Thanks to you and your crew," he acknowledged. "I have news I thought you would wish to hear personally. The Valari High Council has approved preliminary diplomatic relations with Earth. A formal delegation will be dispatched within the month." Ria's eyes widened in surprise. "That's remarkable progress. When we spoke last, you anticipated significant resistance." Tarek's expression turned knowing. "There was. However, it seems our encounter inspired more than just myself. The story of a human vessel risking itself to save a Valari officer, then outmaneuvering an Atlan hunter using ingenuity rather than superior technology. It resonated with many in our leadership." He paused, then added more quietly, "There are also concerning developments with the Atlans. Their aggression has escalated. Many now recognize the value of new allies, even those they might have previously dismissed." "I'm glad our actions could help pave the way," Ria said. "Earth has much to offer beyond technology." "Indeed." Tarek's expression grew more serious. "There is one more thing. Captain, I have been reassigned. I now serve as the military liaison to the diplomatic corps, specifically focused on relations with Earth and its allies." Ria understood the significance immediately. "A position that allows you to directly influence the developing relationship between our peoples." "Precisely." A slight smile touched Tarek's lips. "It seems being left to die in space and then rescued by humans has its advantages. My perspective is now considered valuable." "I look forward to working with you in your new capacity," Ria said sincerely. "As do I." Tarek made a gesture that she had come to recognize as the Valari equivalent of respectful acknowledgement. "Until then, Captain Ria of the Aegis Dawn, may the stars guide your path." "And yours, Captain Tarek." As the transmission ended, Ria sat back in her chair, contemplating the unexpected developments. What had begun as a simple rescue, a refusal to leave someone to die alone in the vastness of space, had potentially altered the course of relations between their species. It was a reminder of something she had always believed, that in the midst of political complexities and interstellar conflicts, sometimes the simplest actions, those driven by compassion rather than calculation, could have the most profound impact. The Aegis Dawn would continue its mission of exploration, but now with the knowledge that they had already discovered something perhaps more valuable than any new planet or phenomenon: the foundation of an alliance based not on convenience or necessity, but on the shared recognition of each other's humanity, regardless of the form it took. In the silence of her ready room, Captain Ria Lockhart smiled. Sometimes, it seemed, the universe rewarded those who chose compassion over caution, and in a galaxy often divided by difference, perhaps that was the most important discovery of all.